Hello everyone, I am JOEHOVA. This project is going to be something completely different than what I usually do on this channel. I'm calling this the Silmarillion Companion. It's designed to help people reading this great work for the first time to better understand what's going on and how everything connects. Now, I read this book myself for the first time many years ago and remember having a hard time understanding all the relationships and motivations of the narrative, so I decided to make this as a guide to enhance the fullness of the experience. I want to make it clear that I'm in no way a Tolkien scholar. I'm just a huge fan of the work, and I've read it many times over the years, and I feel I can add some insight and hopefully inspire those of you who've never read the Silmarillion to do so. So let's get started. Annalindale. So the beginning of this book starts, well, at the beginning. It's probably the hardest chapter to get through for the first-time reader, being so abstract, but it sets up the entire universe of Tolkien's narrative. We're introduced to Eru, also known as Ilúvatar, and this is God. It's important to understand that Tolkien made it clear that none of his work was meant to be an allegory. So, to say Ilúvatar is God is technically incorrect, but I think it's important for us to have something from our world to tie these things to so we can better understand the relationships, right? So keep in mind, Tolkien was not only a Christian, but also a lover of history and language, so there's this beautiful mixing of ideals and cultures throughout the story. Ilúvatar creates the Ainur, which Tolkien calls the Holy Ones from his thought. I have always thought of these as what you might call angels, so he spoke to them and taught them how to sing, and sing they did. The whole first chapter, as well as the making of the world, is made up of their song, but we'll get into that. At first, the Ainur only sang to Ilúvatar by themselves or a few together, while all the other Ainur just kind of listened. And through this listening, they kind of began to comprehend that part of the mind of Ilúvatar where they came from, right? The Ainur began to sing together in what's described as the greatest harmony of all time, only to be improved at the end of the world when the children of Ilúvatar, the yet to have been created elves, join the Ainur in song. Now, this music travels off into the void, and it's said it's not void, right? So the music creates something out of nothing. The Ainur don't seem to be aware of this at this point, because it's said that Melkor, the first among the Ainur, had traveled into the void looking for the imperishable flame, not knowing that it was Ilúvatar himself, right? Finding the void abandoned and empty, it's said that it bores a desire in Melkor to create music of his own. So Melkor is the first named of the Ainur. He's the strongest, right? The most powerful. He's the Satan figure in this narrative. Now, if you're familiar with the works of Joseph Campbell, and if you're not, I suggest you look him up, you know that there are many such stories throughout myth and legend handed down through time. It's not a singular Christian thing. The important thing to note is that Melkor was the best of the Ainur in the beginning, having the greatest knowledge and power, and sharing in the gifts of all the other Ainur as well. Now, this is an important theme. Tolkien, for the first time in the narrative, is telling us that the strongest and most powerful are the easiest to be corrupt and fall from grace, which Melkor eventually does. While the Ainur are singing their song, Melkor begins to interweave his own theme into the work. This creates discord. Some of the Ainur join his singing, and some are dismayed and just stop altogether, right? Eventually, the two songs become a battle for dominance. This is described as a turbulent sound as a raging sea. And it seems like Melkor has the upper hand, having drawn some of the most powerful Ainur to himself, and that changes the original theme of Ilúvatar. Well, the first theme, which ends when Ilúvatar raises his left hand and smiles, is at this point in which the Ainur create the world, right? So there's these three themes, right? The first theme, he raises his left hand and the world is created. The second theme raises his right hand, and this is when the physical world is actually, this is when the Valar are actually building the world, and Melkor is fighting with them over dominance of the world. And then this third theme comes in, and it represents the coming of the Firstborn, the Elves. And so it's much different than the other themes altogether. And then Ilúvatar speaks to the Ainur and admits that, Melkor is the strongest, but he reminds Melkor that nothing that he does is his own making. Like, he's not allowed to do anything that Ilúvatar does not allow him to do. So This is also an important religious ideal, right? God, in this case, Iluvatar, is perfect and responsible for not only the best in the world, but also the worst. So we're told everything that will come to pass, even the greatest of evils, stems from Iluvatar alone. The Ainur are simply its tools. The Ainur were dismayed, and Melkor said to feel shame. Now, this may be the only time Melkor is described to have such feelings. So in the beginning, we're led to believe that he was not yet beyond redemption. Now, in the next section of the story, Iluvatar takes the Ainur over to the Void, which is no longer void, and pretty much shows them a recording of their music, which is in fact a world which they themselves had created, and they look on in amazement, right? This is an important part that's pointed out in the story. The Ainur not only created the world through their music and virtually watched its history unfold before them, but there are also parts of the theme which they themselves did not create and are therefore a surprise to them. So they're not aware of everything. They're not completely omnipotent. The third theme, in which the Ainur, it is said, took no part of or no concern, this refers to the children of Iluvatar, the elves and men. It's said that when the Ainur beheld the children in the world which they had made, many desired to go into the world that they called Arda for the first time, to aid the children of Iluvatar. Now, they had not really seen the coming of men. They had only seen the coming of the elves. Even Melkor at this point pretended that he wanted to go and do something nice, but really in his heart he wanted to have lordship and dominion over these people. A point is made to the reader that the most enamored part of Arda for the Ainur, other than the children of Iluvatar, was the sea. And in the roaring of the ocean, some remnant of the music of the Ainur can still be heard. An important note to make here is Tolkien's dream of the big wave. He's said to have a recurring dream in his youth in which he stood upon a hilltop and watched the ocean wash over the land. This vision is referred to many times in his work, most notably in The Lord of the Rings itself. Also, I believe we're purposely told that the music of the Ainur can still be found in the sea due to its great power. Man has controlled many things upon the world, but we're still very much helpless to the life-giving or destructive power of the sea. At this point in the story, we're introduced to the other Ainur. These Ainur are listed by rank. At this point, Melkor is the most powerful. The next Ainur mentioned is Ulmo, who's the god of the sea. The way I make sense of this is very simple. We're now dealing with pagan-type gods. We're familiar with historical gods of this type: Zeus, Athena, Hercules, Mars, Poseidon. I believe this is the structure Tolkien is representing here. Each of the Ainur are most concerned with one part of the world, and over that part they have dominion. I think Tolkien's telling us here that Ulmo is the second most powerful of the Ainur. Now, the next Ainur mentioned is Manwe. He is the god of air and great birds, such as eagles, which we are all very familiar of in Tolkien's work. He is to eventually be named King of the Ainur upon Arda, which will be known as the Valar, but we'll get there in time also. Next, we're introduced to Aule, who is the god of the earth. He's most concerned with the making of things from the materials of the earth, and it's pointed out to us here that it's not a greedy love. He makes and gives freely, right? So this is a key that separates him from Melkor, who also possesses this power but is selfish. Aule and Melkor will struggle against each other through the beginning of the book and the creation of Arda, but as we're told here, Aule is fourth amongst the gods. Also, I think it's very clear that Tolkien tells us over and over through his stories the most powerful are rarely good leaders. In this way, Manwe, being ranked third among the great Ainur, is actually the best choice. Iluvatar points out to Ulmo that there are wonders to behold that are beyond his original designs, because the attempt of Melkor to destroy something creates something completely new. And he points out snow and ice. Ulmo is the god of water, and he concerned himself with everything water. Well, until Melkor interfered with him and tried to destroy water, up to that point, ice and snow didn't exist, but it came into creation because of Melkor's action. And so this is reinforced again, right? Iluvatar's in control. No matter what Melkor does, you're going to get something out of nothing. So that's something that always is coming back to us as well throughout the story. Now, we're told as well that Ulmo seeks out Manwe, and the two form a close bond. This is another theme of Tolkien's writing. The group is always better than the one. We see this over and over, most notably in the Lord of the Rings, when the Free Peoples of Middle-earth unite and take on the one Dark Lord. Now, at this point in the story, while the Ainur were watching the creation of the world take place, Iluvatar takes the vision away, and they're left once more in darkness. That they behold darkness for the first time, right? Because before it was just what it was, but now they've seen this light, this world, and now they perceive darkness for the first time. And we're told that the Ainur still to this day are shaping the world. But the vision was taken away before the arrival of men and the decay of the firstborn immortal elves, so they don't know everything that's going to happen. They just saw kind of a foreshadowing of it. Now we come to the creation of the world, which Iluvatar calls Ea. And Iluvatar sets the imperishable flame in the heart of the world, and the Ainur see it from afar. We're told many of the most powerful descended into the world, but Iluvatar tells them that they will be bound to it, and their power will be the world, and the world will be made of them. Basically, what we're being told is that the Valar, which are named here for the first time, the gods, are bound to the world. In fact, they are the world. This concept is very much the same as what we see in the One Ring later in the Third Age, with Sauron puts forth so much of his power into the dominance of others that he himself cannot survive if the ring is destroyed. We are also told at this point that not all the Ainur went into the world. Many, I would suggest the greater part, stayed outside the confines of the world with Iluvatar. We're told that when the Valar come to Ea, that they are astonished to find it empty. I mean, they're expecting to see what they had been watching, right? But it's a blank canvas. They only now perceive the vision they were shown was just a foreshadowing, and it's up to them to create the world. But Melkor let them all know right away that, hey, I'm in charge. And of course they resisted this, and so they start making the world, and he's like, this is my world. And this is where the leadership of Manwë first takes shape. He gathers together many spirits to stand up to Melkor, and he tells Melkor, which we're told is like a brother to Manwë in the eyes of Iluvatar, that he cannot claim the world, for others have labored there as well. You know, he didn't make this whole thing. He can't just take control of it. At this point, Melkor splits off, seeming, to see that he's outnumbered, but the desire to rule the earth was forever in his heart from that point on. So here we see the first allegiance in the world against evil. Indeed, this is a theme of Tolkien. The only way to defeat evil is to unite against it. And throughout his stories, as long as people stand together, united, they can overcome evil. It's only when they split apart that evil takes hold. But it's a constant struggle, and there seems no way to ultimately defeat evil forever. Evil, after all, is part of the world itself and ultimately stems from Iluvatar. At this point in the story, the Valar take shape for the first time, mimicking the appearance of the children of Iluvatar, or the Elves. Now, Tolkien goes out of his way here to remind us that even though these beings have chosen to appear in elvish form, this is nothing more than clothing to them, and they can cast it off without any harm to themselves. We're reminded that the Valar are gods, even if they do decide to take physical shape and can clothe themselves in their own thought. I mean, this basically means that they can take whatever shape they choose. Interestingly, some of the Valar take the form of males and some of females based on what Tolkien calls their temper. Now, this is one of the fundamental principles of the work of Tolkien, and it's why it has lasted and will continue to echo down the halls of time. Tolkien always was very careful to avoid allegory, instead chose what he called applicability. We can apply our own views and outlooks upon the stories which we're told, and therefore it can become personal to us. He's not dominating us, telling us what to think. We get to think for ourselves. Now, this is going to be controversial, but I'll give you an example, right? A new wave example. I don't know how Tolkien felt about gay people, but being Catholic, one can assume he would not necessarily have approved of the practice. But let's say you're gay. You're a gay person reading this work for the first time. The last section where the Valar choose their appearance based on their mood or temper can apply to you, right? Maybe you were born with female genitalia, but your temper is that of a male. You could apply the story of the Valar choosing their appearance to your own life and find comfort in the narrative, right? Something that the author may never have intended to happen, but you applied the story to your own life. And I think that's what's so awesome about all of Tolkien's work. He's very, very careful to resist allegory, which is something that we're not used to these days because everything's an allegory. They want to dominate us and tell us what to think all the time. That's why this work is so good. Now, this is the genius of Tolkien and why his work will last for generations to come. And therefore, in my opinion, that's why so many people have such a personal connection to his characters. They can see themselves in Tolkien's work. The end of the chapter tells us that the Valar work to create their vision, but Melkor works equally hard to destroy it. And in the end, though nothing turns out quite the way that they originally intended it to be, it comes out great nonetheless. Now, this is also an important thing to highlight here. Many of the things we set out to do in our lives do not turn out exactly as we plan. Many people give up hope and stop trying to achieve in the face of such disappointments, but Tolkien's characters do not. They struggle on in the face of such difficulties and achieve despite their challenges. This is how the story is applicable to me, for example. I've struggled throughout my life with despair, but Tolkien's work tells us over and over, there's always hope. Well, everyone, I hope you've enjoyed the video companion to the Silmarillion so far. This is just chapter 1. I want to do more videos like this, but I need your support. Please comment and tell me what you think. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, my name's JOEHOVA, and I'll catch you later. Goodbye.